the topic is really exploring the relationship between universities and digital innovation hubs. And I'm speaking really from experience because we're trying to do this at VIS, and it's kind of a case study of how we see this link between universities and digital innovation. To kind of start off with a little bit of a definition and to define what we mean by digital technology innovation hubs, or what I mean. I see that digital technology really in this modern age is 4 intersecting circles. So the first one is really hardware. And the platforms that we usually associate with digital technology are the tip of a huge iceberg. So if you think of computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones, that's a little bit of what the world of digital hardware today. We hear and we sort of know a lot about the Internet of Things and about wearable devices. The joke that I like to tell, it's not even a joke and it's not even funny, but I like to say that it's kind of not long before you stand on the bathroom scale, which communicates with your fridge, which communicates with the supermarket, and they conspire to put you on diet, and you haven't even been part of the conversation. So you suddenly just start losing weight without knowing why. But I think that's the world we're moving into. And then digital content is becoming more and more important. So almost everything we touch, everything we use, all of the kind of knowledge and information we deal with now lives in a digital form. So digital content, be it big data, be it sensor data, it's all lives in a sort of digital form, and there's a lot of innovation around digital content. And then software is the glue that holds those two things together within a connected world. So the internet holds it all together. And the real innovation that we're going to see in the next couple of decades will be where these 4 parts of the kind of digital economy intersect. So it's where we see hardware, software, and content in a connected world that we're going to see huge innovation happening. And the way digital innovation happens and will happen is quite interesting because it's a feedback loop. And skills become very important in the digital world. We're always having to learn new things. We're always needing to deal with new tools and new skills. And in acquiring and using new skills, we start to get ideas about how to use them to solve problems. And we might develop business models in terms of how to get it out there. And then there's maybe a commercialization step, and then the loop closes. So you've now got something new out there, some new thing, some new concept, some new service, which now needs new skills leading to new ideas and new innovation. So this is the engine that drives digital innovation. And the two things about it is that it's very rapid and it's very multidisciplinary. So we are seeing this as the kind of engine driving the digital revolution. And the question of where digital innovation happens is it's not in large corporates. Large corporates find the disruption of this rapid innovation hard to deal with. And it's not happening in mom and dad's garage anymore, because in mom and dad's, in your home, you aren't finding the skills that you need to bring everything together. So you kind of need to pull together a range of skills. You need an environment that encourages innovation. And the place where it's happening around the world are what are called technology hubs, technology zones, digital technology innovation zones. And it's a place where in one space people can get ideas, people can learn, people can interact, and people can incubate new businesses and new concepts. So we are finding an explosion of these around the world. What they look like are co-working spaces, meeting spaces, learning spaces, maker spaces, content innovation, and then food and events. The fuel that drives the digital revolution is pizza, coffee, and bandwidth. So you create these spaces, you fuel it in the right way, put the right people in, and you start to see innovation happening. So if you look around the world, I'm sure that lots of you have sort of traveled around, have been to London, New York, Nairobi, and you've seen what's going on in this digital space. So across Africa, there's a lot of these digital hubs that have been created. And I have to say that although they're there, not all of them succeed. One very successful one is the amazing space in Nairobi, the iHub. And that's what it looks like. And you step inside and you see a place where people meet, where people work by themselves or in groups, and people develop innovations and new ideas. And that's what many of these kind of spaces look. And there are successful ones and unsuccessful ones. A few of the critical success factors that makes for a successful innovation hub is that it's got to be close to the customers, close to people that want to buy what you're developing. It must be close to the workforce. It must be close to where the people that you're going to have as your sort of innovators and your pool of skills would choose to be. It needs the physical infrastructure, both physical and digital, and it needs lifestyle issues. It's got to be a cool and a funky place where people that are attracted to digital technology would choose to be. And an important one as well is it should be close to a good university. The ones that we see succeeding are near to universities. So the case for Braamfontein, why we believe Braamfontein is a good place for such a space, is it's in a province, the province we're in now, which accounts for 40% of the GDP of the country. And the wealth of our province is even more concentrated than that. If you stood in the middle of Sandton or Houghton and you drew a 10 or 15 kilometer circle, it would enclose most of the 40% of our country's GDP. And the part of Joburg, Braamfontein, is very much in that circle. There's a lot of business that is still in the center of Johannesburg. That's a few of them, banks and mining companies and others. And they all are customers for digital technology. The other thing, it's very rich in people and very rich in young people. So it's a very young part of our country, Joburg. This is Braamfontein, and in Braamfontein we've got many thousands of young people living, and they come from across Africa. We've got two universities, Wits and UJ, and they both are strong research universities with a student population of over 80,000. And there are many professionals working in the companies that I showed in that previous slide. So we tick most of the boxes in terms of what makes for a good technology, a digital technology innovation hub. Okay, now to really focus in for a few minutes on this link between universities and digital hubs. To kind of go back to the National Development Plan, and the priority in the plan, if you read it, is really, and it was mentioned this morning, there's a big focus on ways to reduce unemployment, particularly youth unemployment. And the way we can do that, the way the plan sort of recommends that we do that, is we have to grow the economy. And we grow the economy through making our companies, our enterprises more competitive. And you drive competitiveness by driving innovation. And we're doing badly on most of those. We are not meeting the targets we should be reaching in terms of growth, in terms of competitiveness, and in terms of innovation. And really, universities and organizations like the one that we are kind of celebrating today, the CSIR, plays an important role because they're part of this national innovation system. So they will drive the competitiveness and will lead to growth in the country's GDP. Whoops. And to do that, we have to commercialize. We have to take our research out of our labs into the world. We can't just have great papers. We have to make things and have to do things with our research. And that's pretty broadly agreed. The difficult thing is, how do you commercialize research? How do you get research out of the lab? And the question is, there are two mechanisms that we've seen. One mechanism is that you firstly protect the IP, and then many universities have tech transfer offices that take the protected IP and they license it, or they find ways to create spin-off companies. So that's the two tech transfer models that we've seen. And the first case, the sort of license to existing companies, is low cost, low risk, but usually low returns. And the sort of incubating startups is kind of higher costs, higher returns, but it needs seed funding and it needs to support the incubation of the company. You can't just throw companies out, you've got to support them. So if you look at the states, they've got laws very similar to ours in terms of IP. And most of the research active universities have tech transfer offices. Most of them have pursued this kind of license to existing companies. And in many cases, they aren't even covering the cost of the tech transfer office in this licensing model. There are a few blockbusters that people quote again and again where you've seen successful tech transfer. So there's been a lot of attention in many universities looking at this incubation of startups to kind of see how universities can incubate startups. And in the States, there are now there are 3,000 to 4,000 startups that have come out of university research. And we at WITS and most of the local universities are not doing great in terms of tech transfer and use this sort of license model. The question is, if we focus on startups, how do you create a startup? So one approach is that you protect your IP, you develop your a business plan, you get funding for the plan, and you implement your plan. And the challenges in doing that is how you incubate, where you get the funding. And there's a problem in this linear model that many people have pointed out. So because your business plan is usually based on assumptions that haven't been tested. That's how to create a startup version 1. How to create a startup version 2 is, and this sort of draws on a whole lot of stuff that's happening that goes under names like Lean Startup and Lean Launchpad. Steve Blank at Stanford has done a lot of the thinking behind this. But without sort of going into detail, The focus is on customer discovery. Do people want to buy this idea in the first place? You first answer that question. You pivot your idea and you create minimum viable product in a very agile way. So, and the key thing in this is your founder, your researcher, your student has to be part of every step of this. You can't just throw your invention over a wall and someone will turn it into a business. You get your researchers to become entrepreneurs and founders of the companies themselves, if they're that way inclined. So what's actually happened in the States, through the National Science Foundation, they've created something called the I-Core, and it works using this lean launchpad methodology, and they have created these kind of I-Core nodes at particular universities. They train the scientists and engineers in this lean launchpad methodology, and they're spinning out companies doing that. The two things, if you're going to spin out the companies, you need a technology innovation hub. You need a space where that's going to happen. So this now closes the circle. So if universities are serious about tech transfer, especially digital technology tech transfer, then you need a digital technology hub in proximity and closely aligned to the university if you're going to do it. Why digital is kind of different from most other things is it's very cheap to create these minimum viable products. You don't need huge plant, you don't need huge investment, you just need a brain and a computer to do it. So we are linking our WITS tech hub to a tech transfer model to try to get our researchers trained in this lean launchpad method to begin to bring ideas into the digital technology hub. The hub we're creating is in Braamfontein. It's called the Tsimologong precinct. Tsimologong is a Tswana word that means new beginnings. It's in Jutta Street, which is 2 blocks from our campus. The look and feel, they're just old Braamfontein buildings that, as we speak, they're busy renovating. There's a nightclub at the center of it that closed in 2010. I think I've sort of taken people around and you see their face change as they realize that they've had an experience in this club they're not going to tell you much about. But to convert a club into a hub is quite easy, because where you've got the dance floor, you have your co-working spaces, where you've got your bars and seating areas, you can have your skills development and your incubator spaces. There's a courtyard that used to have a swimming pool, which will become a coffee shop and an events area. And even the DJ box can become a server room. And then the next building in the row is an old warehouse, which will become meeting rooms and training rooms. That building now actually is the kind of home of my center and some other VIT centers. And this corner building, as we speak, is being completely reshaped and rebuilt, and it's IBM's research lab in South Africa. This is their kind of number 13 lab in the world, and it will contain a lot of high-end digital technology that our researchers and innovators and entrepreneurs will work together with the researchers from IBM. And just the look and feel we're going for, that's what the outside will look like. That's our courtyard, which will be a public space. There'll be a coffee shop at the back of it, and that's the floor of the dance floor, which will become a big co-working space. So that's, if it were so easy to just draw pretty pictures and they happen, I would be a happier man. But it is happening now with a lot of pain and effort. And we've pulled in quite a lot of partners. So we've got IBM and Microsoft, we've got MMI, we are working with Barclays and Telkom and the city of Joburg and TIA, the Technology Innovation Agency. So that's the way that we're going to prove this link between universities and digital technology innovation hubs. Thank you.